hate speech. Thank you for being in this session. There is a high competency between sessions, as you have noticed on the Global Media Forum. And you have decided to not follow the discussion with Gerald Asamoah on racism in football, which is great. Nor you are watching the famous TV show of Jafar Abdul Karim, Shabab Talk. We are talking here in an expert setting, a round table. I'm Patrick Leusch. I'm head European Affairs at Deutsche Welle. And I was the former CEO of the Global Media Forum. So the two last editions, I ran it. And it's nice to see how it evolved and how it is run now by the team that has taken over in October. So, well, we have an hour, and I very warm welcome also all those who are watching us on live stream, because we are live streamed at that session. That's the second year that we have live stream, and our experience from last year was that we have huge attention with the live streams globally. So smile in the camera, pay attention to what you say. You're watched on a global level, okay? So, and as you know, everything that goes to internet never goes away. Okay, cyberbullying and hate speech, how to find online harassment. I think, and the attention that you pay to that topic and the fact that this is one of the topics here at the Global Media Forum shows clearly that it is an important topic. It is increasing. I'm a little bit careful with this kind of trends, but obviously the more the digital sphere is used, the more you have also these effects of hate speech, of racism, of sexism, whatever. It's not a new phenomenon. Still the question is how to face it. And obviously different actors are involved in it, and a range of stakeholders, be it platforms, be it authors, be it youngsters. And there's a couple of initiatives and ideas how to face it. It starts from education at school, to deleting, to juridical or court cases. But still, what is best practice? What is a good solution? How we can effectively face it? That is still an unsolved issue. And the aim here is to check with you first, what is the experience you have with the issue on a professional or personal level, because it can be the two of them. You can be exposed to it personally. You can have the challenge to deal with it on a professional level, and as a media maker, for instance. And let's pay attention to the solutions to it, to face it effectively. That's how I would like to drive the discussion. The format for the round table, which is a true round table involving everybody as an expert, so you're all considered experts here. Nevertheless, we have three resource persons that give the first serve, so to say. First of all, it's Rokhaya Diallo from France. Is a French journalist, director and writer, and activist for racial, gender, and religious equality. She co-founded in 2007 Indivisible, a group whose goal is to use humor and irony to break down prejudices and racial discrimination. And she is also appointed to the French National Digital Council last year. So very much welcome. Thank you very much for being with us. Yin Yadanar Thein is with us. She is founder and program manager of Free Expression Myanmar, a specialist human rights organization in freedom of expression and information that engages in legal reforms, defends victims of violations, and promotes international standards to safeguard. And last but not least, we have Richard Gutjahr with us, who is German and is seen as one of the first kind of digital influencers in media. he went famous due to different big reportage that you did. Twice you were obviously at the right moment at the right place. But the first time that a bigger audience noticed your work was when you reported from the revolution in Cairo in Egypt. Thank you very much for being with us. You are working for leading media in Germany today as a freelancer. So thank you all. The idea is that my resource persons give a 3-minute, and I'm serious about the 3-minute, a 3-minute insight in their experience with hate speech and cyberbullying from a personal perspective, from your experience. And then we catch up with you asking the question, is by what you heard from the 3 resource person here, is there something that is similar to your experience, or are there other experiences that you can add to it? And the idea is to get the full picture, the range of what we are discussing about, okay? So that's establish a kind of status and a common understanding of the forms and the differentiations of hate speech and cyberbullying. That would then last for 15 minutes, more or less, that we have an exchange on your experience based on what you have heard. The next step would be an open exchange on strategies to face it. What, through your experience in your daily work, is an example of facing it? How are you going to face it, to counter it, etc.? So that is the next step then for more or less 20 minutes. And at the end, the last 20 minutes would be dedicated then to what can be done and who must do what. So who is concerned and in what way, so that we come to kind of conclusions that lead a little bit more to an understanding what's next step. I don't want to stay in the bubble of analyzing well the problem, but then remaining with the problem in hand. I want to go beyond. Okay, that is the aim here at this roundtable. So, okay, that's it from me. I'm simply the timekeeper and moderator. I'm not an expert of hate speech and cyberbullying. I spent the last 15 years in development cooperation on a global level, so I have a good insight in the media reality in a variety of countries, but I'm really not an expert on hate speech. Okay, maybe we start with you, Rokhaya. So share with us your approach to the topic, your professional, your personal experience, and identify the one that is showing best what we are talking about, maybe. And I'm keeping the time for the 3 minutes, okay, if you allow me. All right. Okay?
All right. So thank you for giving me the floor. As you said, I work as a journalist in France, and I work mostly on gender and racial equality, which is a space that is much exposed to hate. What I can observe from France is that most of the extreme group didn't have a space in the traditional media, so they really find their way to have one in the digital space. So they really started way before everyone, so that they are very, very good now. And that's a real issue, because when you try to make a room to speak, especially there is an issue now with migrants, you have very well-organized group of trolls that we just try to shut you down. So that's something I'm facing. Also, I use a lot social media as a journalist to share some views, to share some articles, to expose certain ideas that I can, because I work both for TV and radio, but it's not, the same, the spaces are different. So, and what I get from those groups, trolls or people, even politicians, is a real backlash and sometimes hate speech, harassment, some people trying to shut me down. And that's something that I can observe at my level, but not only for me. And it's especially violent when it comes to women. When women try to express ideas, they're really getting threats, backlash, and some people try to shut them down. So I think that there is an issue with the fact that some groups have been prevented from being visible in the mainstream space, so that they have been forced to invest the digital space. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so there are two elements that I keep. One is you're saying, particularly when you're women, it turns particularly violent and extreme in the harassment. And a second is, you say that there are very well organized groups, trolls, etc. So first, that is in France. We're not talking about trolls all over the world. These are locals.
It stands for France, but there can be some like connections at a global level. That's what internet makes possible.
What does it mean that they are very well organized?
It means that as they didn't, for example, in France, in the traditional media, the policy was not to invite anyone from the far right for a long time. It's different now, but it has lasted until the mid-2000s. So while they didn't have access to the mainstream media, they had to express themselves in some platform, and they choose to invest first the blogs, then the social media, and now they're very good and way better than the other spaces. And I don't know how it is here in Germany or in other countries, but what I can tell is that once you say something about an issue, for example, if you publish an article, you will see in the comments that some people would try to drive to orient the comment in some way. Even if it has nothing to do with race or migration, someone will put the topic in the comments, and all the comments afterwards will be focused on one particular issue.
So it means you feel a kind of strategic attempt to what you publish, and also a concerted campaign.
Exactly. Yeah. And even fake accounts, you will find that someone has only one follower or just has tweeted about one topic for, a long time.
Okay. What do you think is the most important point that we should discuss here, or where you want to profit from the experience of the other experts around the round table? A thing that is maybe unsolved for you, where you see, okay, that's where I see, where I look for a solution, where I want to go forward.
I think that one of the most burning issue is cyberbullying. Like when you try to speak up, you're being confronted to people who try to shut you down. So how do you respond to that? Do you go to the courts? Do you strategize with other group in order to just overwhelm the people who try to shut you down? It's something that I'm very interested in because I'm confronted to that every day on a daily basis. And you say something in my introduction. I'm no longer a member of the National Digital Council. It's maybe a story I can share with you, but it was because of cyber hate. So I was appointed by the government, and some trolls went online to say, no, she can be appointed because she's radical and such and so that they pressure the government in order to make me resign from my position. So I expected you to tell this story. I didn't resign. I was not the only one to resign. We all resigned, all the council. So they resigned with me. So there haven't been a council for 6 months.
Yeah. Which is really a scandal.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much so far. I think there will be more questions to you, but please, it's not a Q&A here with the experts. It's really open debate. And your question to the group is more or less how to respond. Huh?
How to respond, and maybe how to feel safe. To feel safe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Yin, do you want to continue from your experience from Myanmar, which is maybe it's a quite different setting, but on the other hand, it could lead to similar experience, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me here, and then it is really honor for me to be here and then to discuss with you. So yeah, my country is now really notorious in the discriminating and also ethnic cleansing what is happening inside the country. So of course the social media, the internet is a main role inside the country, to ban those things inside the country. So yeah, I'd like to cover that part. Maybe you will be interested in that. Inside the country, as a brief, that we just got a democracy in 2015, so we are really young. And also on the other side, for the media freedom, we don't have yet media freedom. And yeah, I mean, all of our, free speech are criminalizing, being criminalized by the very oppressive law inside. And also on the other hand, there we don't have any right to information law. So of course, there are a lot of fake news and, hate speech are, increasing daily online. So I would like to give you 3 trends online, what is happening regarding the discrimination and also incitement towards to the Muslim minority, of course, the Rohingya and plus other Muslim minority. So one trend is that kind of, it is a hate speech, but without, with full intention. So like my, this colleague said, it is really well prepared and systematic, hate speech from message and from comment, from post, from the page also. And other trend is, the second trend is the hate speech distributed by the people with no intention. So I would like to say that they distribute or, they spread that kind of dangerous speech, incitement, discrimination against those minority. But, they are not the drivers. They are the platform. It's a platform. They don't know. So, for example, like my family, so my mother and my, grandpa, when, I have to go, I have to, walk outside of, my Yangon. Sometimes I have to go to the Rakhine state. So they really, really worry about me, and they spread that kind of, message, really dangerous message to me. They just want to warn me that please take care. Yeah, because we don't have right to information. And other thing is like, they cannot have access to information. So this is why they, fear are, increasing in the darkness inside the country. So, and the third trend is really, consequently linking to that, hate speech spread without any intention. It is, we call the propaganda, so there are a lot of propaganda channel by the government. So yeah, of course they have their state-owned media and also state-owned broadcaster, state-owned print, and also like on the social media platform they have their own page. So previously it was called like a State Councillor Information Committee page. So after the attack and last attack in 2017 August 25, and of course a lot of criticism came up because they use the word state councillor. This is the Aung San Suu Kyi, our state councillor. So people question about do they have acknowledgement from the state councillor. So of course at the time, after that time, they delete the word, they added the word only to information committee page. And also they have the, Ministry of Information have the Facebook page also. So of course they have a really, big channel, to distribute the propaganda online. For example, I would like to give you some example of the hate speech. So messaging is like after the 2017 attack, August attack, the message, it is the incitement, not only the low-level hate speech, which is really incitement. It being spread from the anonymous source. So it was saying that, okay, jihad is coming. Because in our country, most of the people translate jihad is really negative meaning. So jihad is coming, and then please, be ready and be united. So the word "be ready, be united" from the other, country people, they will not understand. But in our language, it is like let's fight. So it's like please, warning, to the Buddhism community and warning to the Muslim community. What happened to the real world on that day? Many, school has to close, and the parents they run to school. They have to take their children back to home. So at the time, even Yangon, the capital, the second capital city, is like it is. You cannot see the people, like daily on the street. Yeah.
Thank you very much. What I keep here is you're saying that there is an attempt also from government, from officials, to create a kind of fear that is then the basis of rejection minorities, for instance, or in that case, Rohingya, if I can understand correctly, and create an atmosphere that makes it easy then to attack these people. But it starts by creating fear.
It is not like I don't really, know their intention. Do they really want to attack, and do they really want to, ask to remove those people? I'm not in that position, but I see it as a human rights defender in the country. I see it's clear that they making the propaganda, releasing the propaganda. Propaganda means, as you have already known, that the releasing information, what they want us to know, what they want us to think, right? So they release that kind of information, and they cut down the, information for the free media. So, for example, most of the private media, I don't say independent, sorry. Most of the private media, they cannot go and collect the information in the conflict area. So why they block this kind of access to information, and why they release information from their channel? So it is really questioning that create fears yet.
Okay, thank you very much so far. I think we will come back to some aspects that you have raised. Okay, Richard, it's your turn.
Okay, how can I cut this short? I found myself in a very weird situation. One day I was just doing a job reporting from an attack that occurred in Nice, France 2 years ago, and a truck drove into the crowd. And a week later we had a situation here in Germany where we had a gunman who was shooting 9 people and terrorizing the city of Munich and actually the entire country for a whole night. So I happened to be a reporter. I did what I was supposed to do. I was reporting, and all of a sudden I found myself becoming the subject of wild conspiracy theories, and I was attacked for several reasons, I don't know, that this was all staged, this was all planned, and this is a new world order who's actually trying to, overthrow the governments of our Western societies and replace it, and have the refugees coming in and strolling into our countries, and the theories became wilder and wilder, and was becoming really, really absurd. At one point, I was responsible for, I don't know, the Oslo massacre 6 years ago. So killing 80 or 90 children or teenagers, and I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. So, anyways.
But to clarify, I think I'm not sure that everybody got the point. Maybe I should have announced it in introduction.
Yes.
You were by coincidence present in Nice when this heavy attack with a truck on the promenade was happening, and you were the first videos were from your iPhone.
Yeah, I was.
And a week later, you were by coincidence in Munich, present when this young guy shoot 9 people. So and these 2 events and the fact that you were there created this mess of how to say conspiracy. Sorry. Right. That is what you're telling us.
Exactly. But what I had to learn is that I thought, okay, look, I'm working as a journalist, as we all do, for years, and also online. So I experienced many shitstorms for that matter. Of course, I think actually shitstorm is a kind of a cleaning kind of a way to, think what you're doing and maybe reconsider if you're doing it right. So for that matter, I was well prepared for shitstorm. But what I did not understand back then was that this was no coincidence, that this was no just a few trolls, that this was actually played out by a book, a playbook, how to really hunt journalists down. So for what you have experienced and what you've been going through as a woman, I had to learn that they don't do that to men, but they aim for your family. And on that level, they got you too. So despite, I did not, I was not harassed personally, but, your daughter, your wife, like rape them, put them into concentration camps, stuff like that. So that's the way how they get men. And I had to learn that this was not just like people who were, you know, like bored beyond belief in front of their computers, that this was actually an orchestrated event. And I had to learn that I found myself in a situation that many other journalists have experienced before me, but it went down all the techniques, all the kind of sorts of harassments were in a way like a blueprint of, you know, like how to change the narrative or how to make people shut off and disappear and don't go online anymore. And so what you described, I pretty much felt the same way, that they have taken over this sphere. They have sensed that there is a world, a sphere that nobody yet has claimed. So they went in there, all in there, and learned the rules. They learned them, they perfectionized their work. They know exactly what they do. They know how to do it, when to do it, to whom to do it. They organize themselves so that they're not single anymore, so that they have like attacks, orchestrated attacks, and the rest of us had no clue. I had no clue 2 years ago that they are so much advanced and ahead of the game. I don't know any journalist who is so tech savvy as they are.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for sharing this experience and also the emotion that comes with it. I think we can feel that. You mentioned a shitstorm, and I was wondering if we later maybe have to check a little bit what is the difference between, you know, hate speech, shitstorm, when start that to be more strategic, and obviously what you're saying also is what are strategies to face it, how to find support, to find help, how to face this organized way. You are alone and this is a group that knows exactly what they do. Obviously that is a major thing in it. So I'm opening up the debate. Is somebody there that wants to share and add experience to what these three brave people have faced here?
Hi, my name is Carol from Tanzania. I am a development advocate and an active citizen, so that has gotten me in trouble very much. If you follow the news in Tanzania, some of you might know what is happening, especially with the current government. But I just wanted to share my example with you. And in the spirit of women empowerment, there was a lady who was being bashed on Twitter. And she was being called a sim tank. For those who know water tanks. So back home, there's this really famous brand called the sim tank. And they dubbed her that name because I had taken a photo with her. So they were like, Cara took a photo with a sim tank. And in the spirit of sisterhood, I was like, no, I can't let this happen. So they called her a white sim tank, and I was like, I'm a black sim tank. And I refer to myself as that. But unfortunately, the cartel, the Twitter Tanzanian cartel, were offended somehow, or they didn't think that I would speak up about it, so they turned it around on me. And instead of the attack being on her, it started getting on, you know, my life. And they included my kids, they included my ex-husband, they included my family, they included my achievements, they undermined everything that I did. They came up with all these lies. At that time, I had just been appointed to a certain position, so they said that I'd actually slept with a man to get that position. It really was horrible, and I considered going offline. I actually did it for, like, I think 2 weeks, because it was really horrible. Every time I would get online, there would be something. And it was very orchestrated, because apparently they had a WhatsApp group and they had a Twitter group that, you know, get information and say, yes, today we're hitting up from this angle. And it went on for a whole week and 2 weeks, and it was just, you know, mounting up and amplifying, and it was just really, really bad. But at the end of the day, I found somehow a way to turn it around, and I said, you know what? if they're going to talk the bad about me, then I'm going to talk the good about me. And I'm going to not really, I hope that it inspires other people who have seen the good work that I do to talk about the good work that I've done. And somehow, some way, we managed to turn it around. And I still make jokes about it. You know, I would still go online and say, tell the lady, hi, Simtank. Hi, my fellow Simtank. And she would laugh back and say, hi, my fellow Simtank. So that was a big problem. But then it also comes down to when you have women who are vocal in the society, especially in the East African society, they are a target. And in a political atmosphere like the one that we have in Tanzania, and you have a woman like me who would speak up, there's actually an organized, orchestrated, we call them bots, and we call them parodies. So the same people that you would be tweeting with their real names, apparently have other accounts, and they call them parodies, and they would be we call them Subarus. So they would be throwing Subarus like, how do you say it? Like insults at you, but not mentioning you. And it would just go on. And all this is actually some of it from the ruling political party, so that they can control the narrative that is on social media, because obviously with the reach that some of us have, the news travels. So like, okay, so Carol today spoke about this, it's probably gone viral, let us attack her from this angle, you know. And I would really like to hear from the rest of the people, what is the strategy? You know, how do you deal with something like that? Because as much as we have cybercrime laws, apparently it doesn't apply to civilians like us. It applies to the government when you say something to the government about the government, but when it comes to somebody like me, if I want to report a harassment like that, they don't even take it seriously. If you report to Twitter, there was a person who actually posted my picture, and I reported it to Twitter, and I asked people to please report this tweet because it's really out of context, and it was actually about this trip out here. They tried to stop me from coming here because they thought I would share exactly what I'm sharing today. So how do you deal with that? There are laws, but they're not being implemented.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Isabella, can you share maybe the microphone? So.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's sad to hear this kind of stories that are fact, and we have to deal with it, or you have to deal with it on an everyday basis. I simply would like to comment on it, because you asked what can we do about it. And I would like to provide an example from a country, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina, and how they have dealt with such kind of cases. They extended the mandate of a press council that was established. So something like the Digital Council, for example, a media self-regulatory body. They extended the mandate from only print media to online media and social media as well. And Bosnia and Herzegovina is a quite divided country between ethnic lines and also different religions, so it's quite interesting. There is a lot of hate speech. And so the point was simply, once they established this, they did it simply because of the demand of the people they did not know. Whom can I refer to if I have a complaint? Whom can I refer to if I get a death threat? Okay, of course journalists' unions, associations, of course everything, but nevertheless, the journalist associations will try to probably give you some money to change your location so you can work a little bit undercover, yes, being out of the sphere where people can do harm. But this is not the point. We are talking about something what can be also done publicly in the field of media self-regulation. Mm-hmm. So the Press Council in Bosnia-Herzegovina started also a banner campaign on social media. So if you receive death threats, if you receive any kind of harmful content that you think might be discriminatory, might be really also harming the code of conduct, of course, one country then should have a journalist code of conduct, if possible. But if this is given, so then they started this with the banners, and the people were using it. They started to use it. And then the Press Council, for example, this is just only one example, they were also cooperating with the journalist associations to provide 24-hour hotline with lawyers, with everything, and then also even police involved in order to provide protection for the journalists. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this experience, Isabella. I think that's very valuable, particularly because this is a region that has been seen hate speech long before we talk about cyber hate speech and bullying. And maybe is a good example also to show that this phenomenon is not new as such, but it turns worst in the digital space, where you have this anonymity, where you have other tools, very easy tools, to sit in your dark saloon or kitchen, and yeah, through bots and trolls face this. Okay, thank you very much. I keep one major idea in it that we should elaborate further is this aspect of media literacy at the end of the day. The banner campaign saying, okay, this is harassment, so think about it and make clear where it starts. You said also sometimes it's not intentioned. There's no intention, but still it is unacceptable. So what is this doing with a common ground on what is acceptable or not? And is the barrier moving to a side? I think this is an effect that we see, and obviously education is a tool to face that. Okay, other contributions to this discussion on the level of differentiating the effects that we see or adding important points.
My name is Assumpta Latus, project manager at DW Academy. I just wanted to share one example from Uganda. I'm working with a project called Women at Web. Actually, Women at Web is a project that tries to promote digital literacy to women in East Africa, and also how to counter cyberbullying as well. So one example from Uganda is there is a group of women in Uganda which is very vocal. They have been very vocal in the past times, and they have experienced a lot of hate speech and shitstorms and cyberbullying, and they decided actually to go online as a group, one known group, so that if they get attacked and if they get, like strolled, then they can, react as a group, which is actually working very well. I mean, it's kind of supporting each other, because at the end of the day, whatever they said in the past, whatever they said online, it was kind of, they were getting backlash. And right now, they support each other, and they actually say what they want to say. And if somebody wants to attack one person, it won't be for one person, but it will be the whole group, and then the whole group comes in and defend each other. That's one example. And another example is what we're trying to do now in East Africa is to try and involve something that Isabella already said, to involve different stakeholders. I mean, digital literacy is not only, like putting women together and tell them how to deal with these kind of attacks, but it's also to get stakeholders understand what kind of impact cyberbullying it has. Not only, personally as it is psychologically, it gets, like lots of people are getting into trauma and they don't know what to do. Some people even kill themselves because of cyberbullying. So how to get stakeholders, different stakeholders, to understand what is the impact of cyberbullying? It's something that we are trying to do now in East Africa as well.
Thank you very much to add this perspective on Eastern Africa, and again we are always turning back to the gender issue, that women obviously are particularly vulnerable to it. But I appreciated also the fact that you said, okay, it's not only one person, but it's also the relatives that are targeted, and that makes it much more complicated, also psychologically. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to turn to, yes, I noticed your intervention. I would like to welcome Director General Peter Limburg to the session. Thank you very much. I mean, we as an international broadcaster, we face this kind of threats as well in several newsrooms. And I would like to welcome Indre Varikaite, who is a Lithuanian member of the European Social and the Economic Committee. You can share an experience also, the aspect of state propaganda, hate speech from the Eastern Europe, Russian perspective, particularly on the situation in the Baltics. Please.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I will start by briefly saying that my experience with bullying started a long time before cyberbullying even appeared in global, in our world. I was president of National Student Union. I made several decisions which were not very popular but very necessary, and I ended up when my face was in all the town, tens of thousands of copies with the word which I will not say because we are broadcasted online. And even when I went to the shop, everyone knew this is the one. So the worst thing why I'm telling this story was for me, I was quite a kid then. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to react personally. And I didn't know whom to ask for help. And this is what made me to make several decisions what I'm doing personally in Lithuania, because as you mentioned, I'm working with Russian propaganda. And I made a first document in European Union tackling Russian propaganda. That's why I ended up with such comments, for example, and letters and messages, and even oral messages. You will die like a bitch. I'm sorry, please put the, this beep. And for example, I hope you will have cancer. I hope your children will suffer, and like this. So every day you have to face this very, I will say, harsh, negative things on yourself. But what I done, I understood that two things which I really was lacking was, as I said, understanding that it's not my problem. This is not my personal problem, and I should keep the distance from that. That's why now I'm doing some empowerment for girls in my country, because the most important thing and the most sensitive things, in my view, are girls, because we are still children. We don't know how to act, and we need help, and parents doesn't always know how to help them. So I try to empower as much as I can, explaining that it's not your problem. Please keep your distance. Don't pay attention. It's theirs problem. Second thing, which I doing now, we with several women lawyers, we are preparing, I would call it papers, which we can take and go to court very easily. It's just like you fill your name, you fill the dates, and you just send to court. Why? Because this is what I was lacking when I was attacked, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to find some lawyer. Right. And the last thing which I would like to say, that I believe that this is the most important question of today. Is it freedom of speech, or is it Wild Wild West in the digital world? And we will have to draw the line here. Digital citizenship is the same importance as we are sitting here and we are real citizens. So some countries already try to have this discussion and to speak where is this line. How much you can say, how much you can share what you want to share. Right. What I am lacking European initiative to start the discussion and to make some decisions. Why? Because people who are attacked are a weaker part, and it's our duty to defend them, to help them, and especially, I will finish saying, especially children. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this. Two phrases,
because I just have to answer.
And
Thank you so much for thank you so much for the contribution. And I just wanted to add, like, the one thing that I had to learn, and I'm a grown-up person, is actually they're not attacking you as a person. They attack what you represent. That's what they hate, and that's exactly what their intention is. So we cannot let that happen. We have to like come together and define what do we want the internet to be. Do we want it to be a tool for freedom or to suppress people? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Nadim, go ahead.
I think when speaking about hate speech, it's important also to speak about two elements that are taking important part of it. Is governments and the social media companies. I come from Palestine, from the Middle East, and I mean, it became a standard in the Middle East. Most of the governments are having what we call electronic committees or electronic army, which is basically people who their job is to attack any kind of political opponents or critical voices towards the government. And the government is behind this, directly sponsoring and coordinating these kind of attacks against activists and human rights. I can also speak about the experience of the Israeli government that is criminalizing Palestinian activists and jailing them because of what they are right, and in orchestrating also attacks against the human rights Israeli activists who have a different view of what the Israeli government is doing. But another point is also about the social media companies' responsibilities and how much they are affected by governments and by some kind of trying to change their policy through strong governments, which would be interesting to hear also about this, because they also have responsibility, and the question is how much this having a clear, transparent policies towards hate speech in different countries or not. And I know that about the Myanmar case, there were different articles criticizing Facebook, for example, for not taking any kind of role towards the incitement that happened there. And this is also interesting to discuss what their role and the role of different governments, that some of them at least are taking active part in this, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Yin.
So yeah, exactly. That's the point that Myanmar, what we are currently now doing, the civil society. So we engage directly with Facebook, and then, we give the, background information of the country political situation, country political revolution. And then, we try to point out that, of course, we know that they are doing something, but, it is not enough that we have to convince for the country. So we are just giving that, these are the example that your enforcement team and, of course, your product team, has to tackle. So, that's exactly what we are doing. And before I go to that, private company, can I go to, what we are advocating to Myanmar government inside the country to tackle those things, online harassment, hate speech. So, for example, of course, we, women offline and online, we got a lot of, sexist issue, and also we got a lot of that, gender-based violence. So what we are currently, we don't have the cybercrime law actually inside the country now. So women organization group, they are pushing the government to adopt the, we call the violence against women law. So not only the domestic violence, but also the violence online, offline. So that currently what they are doing. And then from, our freedom of expression group, we are working together with them to put that, to protect women who's being harassed, trolled, online brutally. So that's what we are currently working. And other thing is
Yes, go ahead shortly, because it's so interesting, but I have to keep.
Because we have now the currently defamation, online defamation provision. The government doesn't want to delete it. Actually, it is harming exactly. To the free speech online, but the government doesn't want to delete it because their excuse was that there is no provision that can protect women. That's why they put the one ground inside the provision, but it doesn't work. So we are, proving the government that, okay, what is the impact of this law actually is, not to the women. So, what you should do is you should support and guarantee the women's, security online and offline, and that violence against women law. And other thing is like, we, and even, DW Academy in Myanmar, what we are, together working with, pushing the government is, empowering and giving the capacity to the government to turn the state-owned media to the social media so that we can, focus on the public interest, not that propaganda. That another issue. And also, like, we don't have yet the anti-discriminatory law inside the country. This is a weakness, and also it is an opportunity for the country, so we can tackle that kind of hate speech before the hate crime. Proactively, not the reaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and the social media.
I think you are enumerating a lot of things. Let me sum it up somehow. It's quite clear, and I hope you agree, or maybe you disagree. But obviously, governments and laws should catch up for the phenomenon. So that is one aspect of it, and there are a variety of ways to do that, and that is maybe very different to any country. So there is not a global solution on it, but obviously there are laws that you can use, where you can advocate to make sure that what we see in the digital sphere is covered by it, or use it in that sense that might be one aspect to solve the problem. You are disagreeing, Richard? It's just one point. I want to. The other point to mention that, the other point I have thought is very interesting when you talk about it and about your strategies. Obviously, there are two major tracks. One is to be more passive, keep away, go offline, hide yourself, try to protect. It's a kind of passive thing. The other thing is to go active, go into the discussion, counter, publish. Raise voice, go public with it, organize noise, go to court, whatever. So there are two very different strategies. My impression is that for the second strategy, to go out with it, to speak it out, to face it actively, you must be very brave, because the threat is massive. So, what is your impression on that? How to face it? Is that correct? And is hiding away a strategy, yes or not?
There once was a time when there was a rule. The #1 rule in the intersphere was never feed the trolls. But that was in the cradle, like in the early ages of the internet. That was true when, there was the so-called Streisand effect. That, the famous actress Barbara Streisand, I think it was 2003, she was upset with an aerial shot of her villa in Malibu. So she tried to get that off the internet. And by doing that, she actually drew all the attention to her villa. And all of a sudden, she found like the web flooded with the image that she wanted nobody to see. So that was 2003, 15 years ago. That is like ages away from. That was literally the web 1.0. Now with the ubiquity of the internet, with everyone being online, with like the internet like literally in your hands, that has changed, because shutting up is not an option anymore, because you leave the narrative to your enemies. And it becomes worse every day that you do not speak up, that you do not exchange the narrative. And I think that was a very good point that also our neighbor, he just did, that she started to exchange the old narrative to a new narrative. And that is so important, because what I have learned, we have, as a media person, we have all those fact-checking entities now, like that we prove things wrong. But here's the thing, by saying something is not true, you're actually repeating the lie once again. And the word no, the no, the is not true, actually is you know, silent in a way. So you cannot just replace, like, you cannot just say this is wrong. You cannot just shut up. You have to replace replace the message that they try to put on you by, like, your story, but that.
How are you going to organize support for this attempt? Because this is something you can do by your own, but you're facing 10 or 20 well-organized groups. Is there any strategy you can provide on how to bring others on board?
My struggle now is going into the third year now, and what I have learned over the past 2 years is there is no such thing as a silver bullet to kill the beast. There's no one single solution. Is it the education? Yeah, of course. Is it the government? Definitely. Is it the, you know, the laws? Is it the jurors? Is it the state attorneys? Is it the teachers? Is it the parents? Actually, it's every one of us. Each and every, we are all connected with this thing. You know, like we're debating weapon and gun laws in the US, but actually we all possess a weapon right here in our hands. You can destroy people's lives with a tweet. So we have all been handed out a weapon, but nobody actually taught us how to use it responsively. So, and I'm not just talking about the children, because we're always like, yes, the children must be educated. No, each and every, the police, the jurors, the politicians, the organizations, the unions, the employers, for instance. So they don't even know what they're facing, what they're up against. But we have to do our homework, and each and every one is part of the problem, but as well part of the solution.
Thank you very much for this very strong statement. I think you mentioned a lot of points that are true. Now we have to sort that out a little bit and see where we start to do. It's a mix of everything. Yes, there was the saying in the earlier days of journalism, words can be a weapon. That's true. Now you say mobile can be a weapon, exactly. So that leads to the question to teach to use it. But we have also the situation that the digital sphere turns a war place of ideas, a war place of truth, and it's not isolated and individual phenomenon. It's used in a strategic way, and the ideas are targeted, not the persons. That is a very interesting point about it. So, what do you think? Where to start? What is a thing that you can do by your own, in your setting, in your environment? Yes, go ahead. Do you have a microphone available for you?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tillman. I'm also working for Deutsche Welle, and I'm so far I've been too boring, I guess, for a lot of hate speech and everything. So this is not from my personal experience, but it's rather something that came to mind when you talked about this.
Let me interrupt this. Are you sure that you need to be active or to act somehow to be target of a shitstorm or hate speech? Everybody will shake head.
The victims of Parkland, like just ordinary students, the victims of Parkland, just, you know, they are going through hell because they were just like, you know, they were just at the wrong time at the wrong place. So.
Right. Which is exactly the, sorry, I'm taking this cue because that's exactly where I wanted to go. The point is that actively or passively, you somehow get into this position, and if you're not Richard with a huge following, it's a bit more difficult to get your voice out and really counter this. And I'm just mentioning one thing that I knew, which is the I Am Here initiative, and I'm not sure who's familiar with it. It was initiated by somebody saying, you know, we should counter this, and in order to counter it, we need to attract attention from the good people, from the people who are also opposing the hate speech. So start your posting, your answer to something like this with the hashtag I am here, to tell the world that you are there to counter this and then draw in attention from others. And it's a small start, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't always work, but I think that's something where we need to build on and get more initiatives like that out there. And I think you described that you're building communities where you teach people to support each other, and I think that's a very, very important thing. You counter the structures that they have with your own positive structures.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I'm from Ukraine. My name is Andrew Yurichko, and I will use such a word as a clear environment. So when you want to stop harassment, it's better when the people around you share your ideas and it's clear around. So you know that Google and some other companies, they start to mark good sites for green, yes, and preventing, for example, to go on some untrusted sites. So maybe it's the next way of when we're speaking about digital conversation. So when you see a post from the person who creates his profile an hour ago and it's bad one, so you understand that you can't trust it. And when you saw even something bad from the person with, I don't know, green lights, and you understand that his bad words are not a bad word, but the critics. So maybe you have to listen and to discuss as we speak. So maybe to change his mind. But when you speak with a person who wants to change something, it's always better than when you speak with a person who wants to really harm you. So maybe like that. Thank you.
Okay. If I may, I think that there's a very clear distinction between constructive criticism and bullying. You know, when it's constructive criticism, you will know. You will know that this person is here for a conversation. You will know that this person probably wants to steer you in the right direction or to provoke some kind of, you know, thought towards a certain direction. But when it's bullying, you know. And we need to be clear on that. We need to know how to differentiate what is constructive criticism and what is bullying. And that is actually a big problem back home, because sometimes people are like, no, you should take it, Carol, because, you know, they're trying to help you. Maybe they're trying to share their views and whatever. I'm like, no, if you come to me in a courteous manner and say, no, Carol, perhaps we should do this way. Or maybe, don't you think that we should address this in a certain way? I will take that and I will indulge that conversation. But if you come to me and say, you know what, actually, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're a stupid girl. You have lost me and I will not engage. So we really need to differentiate the two.
I think that is a point that worked out quite well here, to differentiate between different aspects that are very important. Okay, I would like to ask you. You started with the first question to the expert group. So, what is it you take here from the discussion?
I think that everything is good to be taken. Maybe there's something that haven't been mentioned. I have used another strategy, which was going to the court. I was lucky enough to have someone who threatened me with a rape to find his identity, and I went to the court. So we were on a trial, and I saw the guy physically, and it's not the same when you tweet something that when you have a judge reading it, you know, loud and repeating it, and you have to justify yourself from what you've said and to confront yourself with the person that you've threat. So it happened to me twice. One was a rape threat, and the other was a racist death threat. And both of the, you know, the people who were the authors of the threats, they were confused once they were just in front of me, because, you know, when you write something, it doesn't sound in the same way than when you hear it, when you say it. It doesn't have the same, you know, the same echo. So that's something that can't work every time, because most of the trolls are not, you know, easy to track down. Yeah. But if you can do so, it's very intimidating.
Did it feel like a victory, or was it healing something for you?
Not really. To me, I really did that for an example, to show people that the law applies to social media, because people tend to, you know, to feel like, you know, having no to feel
they feel safe.
Yeah,
they're in the dark. They feel safe.
Yes, and people who are attacked feel that they are, you know, they have no way to respond. So telling people, okay, I use my privilege as a visible person to go to court, that, you know, that gave me a way to empower other people. But the other thing is that, yeah, because the first man had a fine and had to pay me for, like, I don't know how to translate that, but to repair the damage that he did to me. I didn't want to take the money, so I gave it to a charity because I didn't have to have any direct relationship to it's very personal, but it's something that you have to deal with. Like just seeing someone who just tweeted in the middle of the night that everybody should rape you and you know, to just prevent you from saying what you say. So it's a way, and maybe the thing that is very difficult with that is that you need to have a lawyer, to pay the lawyer, to go to court, to have time to go there. Yeah, it takes time. It takes time. So maybe that's something that people could be organized around. Maybe a foundation that could fund people, help them, support them, having like, you know, voluntary lawyers that could support people, activists, because many of them are targeted by threats.
Specialists.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing this experience. I think this is extremely important because it is a positive end somehow of a very sad and bad story. But at the end of the day, I fully understand. Everybody understands that if you are face to face, this is a human being, and you are a human being, so you are equal. This is not a hidden guy with a big computer in his hands. So, Richard, last word.
Empathy. We need to. Literally, we need to like go all the way back. Exactly the experience. I also faced one of my my attackers, and I think that is something that we gave away a little bit because we think this is just a machine that we're talking to, but actually we're all human beings being just connected by technology. So we have to teach that, and again, not only our children. Those are grown-up people. We're all grown-up people, but yet there is a lack of empathy by those wonderful. I love those machines. I think it's the greatest gift that was given to us. But empathy is something, as a word, that I tried to teach myself. Like, what makes this person say something like this to me? And one final life hack, if you don't have to go all in with the chords and just have like a usual troll, something that I learned that helps, make a screenshot of what the people just said to you and repost it back to that person. All of a sudden, some of them are kind of shocked, like, oh, okay, because all of a sudden it's out of the context and they see, wow, oh, maybe that wasn't, and he has now a picture of that. I cannot even erase it anymore. So that, in a way, is a short cure. But that, if life would be that easy, we wouldn't be sitting here. So
it is a start.
It's a start.
So let me thank you very much, Yin, Rokhaya, and Richard, for this insight, but also all of you to share your experience that are often not easy to share because you are more maybe victim than you are strong, and it's not a positive example of it. Is difficult to handle. I think that was a really important session, and I hope you stay connected in a network, which is a big aim of the Global Media Forum, also to make you share that experience and that perspectives, and then stay connected and stay solidary in the future and share the good moments. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to everybody who is watching us live stream in the global world. Thank you.